What happens when a police chief's daughter walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom wearing a $3,000 designer outfit and tells him to his face that badges run in her family, so the law doesn't apply to her? This entitled young woman believed her father's position as Providence police chief gave her immunity from consequences. She smiled, laughed at the charges against her, and even had the audacity to check her makeup in a compact mirror while Judge Caprio was speaking to her. But when Judge Caprio discovered she'd assaulted a disabled grocery store clerk over a parking space dispute, called 911 to complain about incompetent officers who dared arrest her, and then showed up to court treating it like an inconvenient social event, what happened next became the most devastating lesson in accountability ever captured on courtroom cameras. The defendant stood there filing her nails as Judge Caprio read the victim's injuries, and when he asked her to show respect, she said something so insulting, so breathtakingly arrogant, that even the veteran court officers couldn't hide their shock. But what nobody in that courtroom knew yet was that Police Chief Rebecca Morrison was sitting in the back row wearing civilian clothes, watching her daughter destroy everything she'd spent 28 years building. And the decision she was about to make would break a mother's heart, restore faith in justice, and prove that some parents love their principals more than protecting their children from the consequences they deserve. Before we dive into this incredible story, less than 5% of you watching are actually subscribed. If you believe that family connections shouldn't place anyone above the law, if you honor hard-working people who serve their communities with dignity, and if you believe entitled attitudes need to be checked, hit that subscribe button right now. This story is going viral everywhere, and you don't want to miss what happens when privilege meets absolute justice. It's a Wednesday morning in Providence Municipal Court, and Judge Frank Caprio is preparing for what the case file describes as assault and battery with aggravating circumstances. At 76 years old, Judge Caprio has seen thousands of defendants, but something about this case file makes his normally warm eyes narrow with concern. The victim is 58-year-old Margaret Joseph, a disabled grocery store clerk who walks with a cane due to a spinal injury from a car accident 5 years ago. She's worked at Save a Lot for 23 years, supporting her elderly mother and teenage grandson. She's beloved in the community, known for her kindness despite her constant pain. The defendant is 26-year-old Brianna Morrison, daughter of Providence Police Chief Rebecca Morrison. Brianna works as a social media influencer with 47,000 Instagram followers. She drives a BMW X5 that her parents bought her, lives in a downtown loft her father co-signed for, and has never held a traditional job for more than 3 months. According to the police report, 3 days ago at 4:30 in the afternoon, Brianna Morrison pulled into a handicapped parking space at Save a Lot grocery store despite having no disability placard. When Margaret Joseph, who has a legitimate disability placard, politely asked Brianna to move so she could park, Brianna allegedly responded, "I'll only be 5 minutes. Find another spot, lady." When Margaret explained she physically couldn't walk from the far end of the lot due to her disability, Brianna allegedly said, "That's not my problem. Maybe lose some weight and you could walk better." Witnesses report that when Margaret Joseph reached for her phone to take a picture of Brianna's license plate for a parking complaint, Brianna grabbed the phone from her hands, threw it on the ground, and shoved Margaret, causing her to fall. Margaret's cane went flying. She hit the pavement hard, injuring her already damaged back and fracturing her wrist. Instead of helping or calling 911, Brianna allegedly took a selfie with her shopping bags, posted it on Instagram with the caption "Some people really tried to ruin my day LOL," and drove away. Margaret was taken to Rhode Island Hospital by ambulance. She spent 1 night under observation and now faces weeks of physical therapy. When police arrived at Brianna's loft to arrest her, she allegedly told Officer Garcia, "Do you know who my mother is? This is going to be so embarrassing for you when she hears about this." When informed she was under arrest, she called 911 from the police car to complain that the officers were harassing her and clearly don't know how to do their jobs. The incident was captured on the store's security cameras. 3 separate witnesses gave identical statements. Brianna's own Instagram post provided a digital timestamp. The case is airtight. The courtroom is packed this morning. Local reporters, disability rights advocates, concerned citizens who recognize Margaret from the store, and court watchers who follow Judge Caprio's cases have all shown up. There's a tension in the air, a sense that something significant is about to happen. Police Chief Rebecca Morrison sits in the back row, fourth seat from the aisle, wearing jeans and a plain sweater. Her badge is at home. Her uniform is in her office closet. She came as a mother, not as law enforcement. She hasn't told her daughter she's here. The reason she came will devastate everyone who witnesses it. At exactly 10:30 in the morning, the bailiff calls the case. The State of Rhode Island versus Brianna Elizabeth Morrison, charged with assault and battery on a disabled person, destruction of property, and leaving the scene. Brianna Morrison enters like she's walking into a boutique hotel lobby. She's wearing a cream-colored Zimmermann dress that costs $1,200, Gucci sunglasses pushed up on her head, and carrying a Louis Vuitton handbag that retails for $2,800. Her heels click against the marble floor with the rhythm of absolute confidence. When she passes the row where Margaret Joseph is sitting, her wrist in a cast and leaning heavily on her cane, Brianna doesn't even glance at her. No acknowledgement. No remorse. Nothing. She actually pulls out her phone to check a notification. Judge Caprio looks up from his paperwork, and those kind eyes that have shown compassion to thousands already show concern. He's read the case file. He's seen the security footage. He knows what kind of defendant he's dealing with. Miss Morrison, Judge Caprio begins, his voice measured but firm. Please approach the bench and put your phone away. This is a court of law. Brianna sighs dramatically, slides the phone into her bag with exaggerated slowness, and walks forward with the body language of someone doing a favor. Sorry, Your Honor. Just had to handle something work-related. Work-related, Judge Caprio repeats, making a note. Miss Morrison, you're charged with assault and battery on a disabled person, specifically on Mrs. Margaret Joseph, a 58-year-old grocery store clerk with a documented disability. How do you plead? Brianna's attorney, Jonathan Prescott, one of Providence's most expensive defense lawyers, stands up quickly. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty. We believe this is a case of, Judge Caprio holds up his hand. Counselor, I asked your client, not you. Miss Morrison, do you have a voice? Brianna adjusts her designer sunglasses on her head and looks directly at Judge Caprio with a slight smile. Not guilty, Your Honor. This whole thing has been completely blown out of proportion. It was barely even an incident. The word barely hangs in the air like poison gas. Judge Caprio slowly removes his glasses, his signature move when he's about to deliver a reality check. Barely an incident, Judge Caprio repeats, his voice carrying new weight. Miss Morrison, I've reviewed the security footage. I've read the hospital reports. I've seen the photographs of Mrs. Joseph's injuries and her broken phone. Would you like to reconsider your characterization of this case as barely an incident? Brianna glances at her lawyer, who's frantically trying to signal her to stay quiet, but her ego won't let her back down. Your Honor, with all due respect, and everyone in the courtroom knows what's coming, I think everyone's being way too sensitive about this. It was a parking space dispute that got a little heated. The lady was being dramatic about everything, and now I'm being treated like some kind of criminal. The gallery gasps. Did she just call a disabled woman dramatic? People shift in their seats. Margaret Joseph shows no reaction, sitting with quiet dignity, but the disability advocates in the courtroom are visibly angry. Judge Caprio sets down his glasses very carefully. His jaw tightens, the look that regular viewers know means his compassion has reached its limit. Miss Morrison, before we proceed, I want to understand something. Do you know who Mrs. Joseph is? Brianna shrugs with complete indifference. Some lady who was in a handicapped spot I wanted. Look, I was only going to be in the store for 5 minutes. She could have just walked from somewhere else. Judge Caprio does something rare. He stands up from his bench and walks around to the front. This means something big is about to happen. Mrs. Joseph, Judge Caprio says, looking directly at the elderly woman. Would you please stand and tell Miss Morrison who you are? Margaret Joseph slowly stands, supported by her cane, her fractured wrist in a cast. Your Honor, my name is Margaret Joseph. 23 years ago, I started working at Save a Lot to support my family after my husband passed away. 5 years ago, I was in a car accident that damaged my spine. I can't walk more than 50 feet without severe pain. I have a legal disability placard. I've never asked for special treatment, just the ability to do my job and live with dignity. 3 days ago, this young woman, she gestures toward Brianna without looking at her, assaulted me for asking her to follow the law. She pushed me to the ground, broke my phone, and drove away while I was lying on the pavement. Then she posted a selfie on social media mocking the situation. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Judge Caprio nods respectfully to Margaret, who sits back down. Miss Morrison, Judge Caprio says, let's watch the security footage together. The monitors flicker to life. The footage is damning. Brianna pulling into the handicapped space, no placard visible. Margaret approaching politely with her cane. The conversation with clear dismissive body language from Brianna. Margaret reaching for her phone. Brianna grabbing the phone and throwing it. The shove that sends Margaret falling. Margaret on the ground, cane several feet away. Brianna looking down at her, then walking away without helping. Brianna taking a selfie near her car. Brianna driving away while other shoppers rush to help Margaret. The courtroom sits in stunned silence. Your Honor, Brianna says, seemingly unfazed, that video doesn't show the whole context. She was being aggressive toward me first. I felt threatened. I was defending myself. Judge Caprio's response is immediate and cutting. Miss Morrison, a 58-year-old disabled woman with a cane who weighs maybe 130 pounds made you, a healthy 26-year-old woman, feel so threatened that you had to assault her and flee the scene. Furthermore, Judge Caprio continues, let's listen to the 911 call you made from the police car after your arrest. The audio plays. Brianna's voice, entitled and indignant. Yes, I need to report police harassment. These officers arrested me over nothing and they're being incredibly rude about it. I've told them multiple times that my mother is Police Chief Morrison, and they're still treating me like a criminal. This is unacceptable. I want their badge numbers. My mother is going to hear about this incompetence. Judge Caprio turns back to Brianna. Miss Morrison, you assaulted a disabled woman, left her injured on the ground, posted mockery on social media, and then complained that police officers were doing their jobs. Do you have any remorse whatsoever for what you did to Mrs. Joseph? Brianna shifts her weight, one hand on her hip. Your Honor, I think we need to consider context here. I was having a bad day. I was stressed. The parking lot was crowded. And honestly, if she has such a serious disability, maybe she shouldn't be working on her feet all day anyway. Maybe this is a sign she should file for disability. The courtroom erupts. People shouting. Disability advocates on their feet. The bailiff has to call for order. A voice from the back of the courtroom, strong and breaking with emotion. That's enough, Brianna. Every head turns. Police Chief Rebecca Morrison stands up from her seat in the back row. Brianna's face goes white. Mom. What are you doing here? Chief Morrison walks down the aisle, her face a mixture of devastation and resolve. Your Honor, I'm Police Chief Rebecca Morrison. I apologize for interrupting, but I need to say something before this goes any further. Judge Caprio nods. Chief Morrison, please approach. The chief stands next to the defense table, refusing to look at her daughter. Your Honor, 28 years ago, I took an oath to serve and protect this community. I've spent nearly 3 decades building trust, enforcing the law fairly, and teaching my officers that the badge means we're held to a higher standard, not given special privileges. Her voice cracks. I came here today because I needed to see if my daughter had any shred of integrity left. Any sign that the values I tried to teach her had taken root. And what I've witnessed," she finally looks at Brianna, tears in her eyes, "what I've witnessed breaks my heart." "Mom, you don't understand," Brianna starts. "I understand perfectly," Chief Morrison cuts her off. "I understand that you assaulted a disabled woman. I understand that you used my name and position to try to evade responsibility. I understand that you're standing here showing zero remorse and suggesting your victim doesn't deserve to work." Chief Morrison turns back to Judge Caprio. "Your Honor, whatever sentence you deem appropriate, you have my full support. My daughter will receive no special treatment, no intervention from me, and no protection from consequences. If she's ordered to serve time, I will not use my position to make that easier for her. If she's fined, I will not pay a single dollar of it." She takes a breath. "In fact, any officer in my department who gives my daughter preferential treatment because of her relationship to me will face disciplinary action. The badge doesn't protect family from consequences. It demands we hold them to an even higher standard. Subscribe right now if you believe in this kind of justice, because what Judge Caprio says next will shock everyone in that courtroom and prove why he's beloved by millions around the world."